What's up, family, and welcome back to the channel. Now, in today's video, we're going to be starting kind of like a mini series over the application process and things that you need to do to make sure you can actually put in your application. And then with these videos, I'm also probably going to give tips and tricks that I just noticed that probably would help out from my time going through the application process. The first thing we're going to start with is what I believe to be the most important, and that is the prerequisites. So for those that don't know, your prerequisites are your classes that you need to take before you can submit your application. Now, with that being said, you can still put in your application if you don't have all of your prerequisites completed. I will explain that later, whether it's this video or a different video when I'm kind of going over what that application portal looks like, just so that way that's not a big confusing point. You don't necessarily have to have all of them finished, but I'm pretty sure it could be very helpful to have all of them done and out the way. The other thing, like whatever school you want to apply to, do a quick little Google search on the school, their vet school program. Just look at their prerequisites. Like I said, you can search them up. I will try to put up some in the video, hopefully, if I'm good enough at editing, that is. But they literally have their prerequisites posted. Most schools overlap in a big part of their prerequisites, and that's mostly kind of their sciences and like that one math. And then there's some differing stuff from different schools. Some schools may want writing from your general core studies or general core classes. Some may want like your history. Some may want additional science courses. A lot actually will want additional science courses, like the 4/5 that I applied to. I didn't apply to 5 because I was tired of putting in applications. But all 5 of the schools that I wanted to apply to definitely had requirements for additional like science courses. And then the other thing that they'll probably overlap on a lot is your animal science classes. And once again, I can go into that in more detail either later in this video or in a different video. Now, one thing I will say about your prerequisites, certain schools want them completed at a certain point in time, like before you put in your application. Now, I know for a fact that Texas A&M, they want your biochemistry class completed with a grade in the system before you put in your application. Like if you're applying for that next term, next cycle, they want your biochemistry class done and out the way because they want to see that grade. Don't know the real reason behind that, but that's just something that Texas A&M does. And biochemistry is definitely a class that you're going to have to take. Your chemistry classes are something that you're going to have to take. Your biology classes, and with biology, that includes kind of like microbiology, general biology, and then if there's other biology classes that you can take, that probably would help just to help supplement that. You'll also have to take physics 1 and 2 with the lab. A lot of these classes, depending on the school, would want their labs as well, just to put that out there because it can be a little challenging to figure out what classes to take and when to take them, but most of your sciences, they want that lab to come with it as well. What else? Oh, my brain farting. Damn. Now, one thing I would be remiss to forget to mention is the fact that your prerequisites are good for 6 years. So if you start going to school now and you're taking your classes, and for whatever reason you take a break or you are out for medical reasons, whatever the case may be, you still have a 6-year window to put in your application and have those prerequisite classes still be good. If that 6-year window expires, unfortunately, you have to start those classes all over again. It just unfortunate, but that is how that process works. I think the best way, personally, to kind of go ahead and knock out all these prerequisites is getting them done in undergrad while pursuing a bachelor's, whether it's a bachelor's of science in biology or a bachelor's of science in animal science, or whatever the case may, whatever degree you may attain. Now, me personally, for those who don't know, I graduated from Prairie View A&M University. I have a bachelor's of science in animal and food sciences. And so how our professor, who is our like pre-vet club advisor, how he had it set up, he had kind of a little rubric of classes that we needed to take and things that we can do to kind of like substitute classes, so that way we're still hitting those prerequisites and getting those classes knocked out the way. But it also helped because, like I said, there are certain animal science classes that your schools want. For example, anatomy and physiology. They do not, unless you have no choice but to take human anatomy and physiology, they want that animal and anatomy and physiology, obviously, because you're going to be working on animals. And although there are some similarities between certain animal and human anatomy, the way they function is still completely different. So you don't kind of want to confuse yourself with human anatomy and physiology and animal anatomy and physiology. It'll also allow you to take things like breeding and genetics. I know I took dairy science and meat science, so that kind of helped in terms of body composition, nutrients, things of that nature. I just believe that that is kind of like the best way to kind of knock out your prerequisites, because one, you have committed at least 4 years to just working on those classes. Now you can obviously get them done before then and put your application in before then, whatever the case may be. It is not required to have a bachelor's in order to go into vet school. Actually, most of your schools that have vet school programs have a program where you can come in as an undergrad, and if you do well enough, you basically kind of bypass your senior year as an undergraduate and you roll straight into your first year of vet school. I know for a fact Oklahoma State has that program. Tuskegee has that program. I believe Texas A&M has that program. I'm not too sure about other vet schools. I haven't done a boatload of research into those schools, but I do know for a fact that those 3 schools definitely have a program where you can kind of roll into that space in terms of going from undergrad to vet school. The other thing that I would probably recommend, if possible, because I know there are people who you can be a biology major and still make it into vet school. But I would recommend, if you can, go to a school that has an agriculture program and be an agriculture major. Because once again, you're going to find it's going to be a lot easier to get those agriculture and animal science classes done and knocked out the way. Quite literally, I started my major classes my freshman year. So that's just my personal opinion. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I have in my head that I want to mention? Obviously, make sure you're doing great in these classes. As our advisor said, your GPA is your key / your passport to getting into vet school. So you want to make sure you're putting your best foot forward in these classes. Like, you want to make sure you're trying to get at A's, B's. You can have a couple C's in there, but try to limit them as much as possible. You want to make sure you're more swinging towards that A-B average, because they also take, not only will they take your overall GPA, but they'll take your like science GPA and your prerequisite GPA, which that I will break down in a later video. But yeah, that is kind of going over the prerequisites. Once again, if I can, I will like kind of prop up different schools' prerequisites throughout this video, just to show, one, the differences in each school and what they require, but also the similarities. Like I said, you're going to have a lot of sciences, so just be prepared. You are stepping into a STEM field, so just be prepared to do some science and math as well, because a lot of these sciences kind of incorporate math into them, especially your chemistries and your physics classes. With that being said, that is all I have for this video. y'all stay tuned. I will be trying to churn out some more videos. Hopefully I can get all these videos out before I head off to school, just so that way these are kind of already here and established, and I'm not trying to scramble and balance school with putting out these videos, and I can kind of just focus on showing y'all what that vet school life looks like. Until next time, I will see y'all in the next video. Toodles!